The betting started before she even reached the gate. $20, says security escorts her out in 5 minutes. Recruit Torres whispered to his companion, eyes tracking the woman in civilian clothes walking toward the training compound. She looks like somebody's lost mom, Recruit Hendricks replied with a snort, adjusting his gear vest as morning exercises continued around them. The woman moved with quiet purpose across the concrete expanse where 200 recruits pushed through their qualification trials. Her simple navy blazer and slacks stood in stark contrast to the digital camouflage and tactical gear surrounding her. Sergeant Walsh barked orders at a struggling fire team, while the obstacle course claimed another victim in a tangle of rope and bruised pride. But she's looking for the visitor center, Recruit Martinez called out from the pull-up bars, loud enough for nearby candidates to hear. That's on the other side of base, lady. His buddies chuckled, their rhythm never breaking on the equipment. The woman paused near the rifle range, watching as Recruit Brennan lined up his shots with mechanical precision. 300 meters to target, standard issue M4. No wind compensation needed. His form was textbook perfect, trigger squeeze smooth and controlled. The shots echoed across the compound in measured intervals. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've witnessed similar moments where someone's appearance didn't match their capabilities in your community. She observed the training with the kind of attention that came from understanding exactly what she was seeing. Her eyes tracked the instructor's corrections, noted the safety protocols being followed, assessed the quality of marksmanship with professional interest. Most visitors would see chaos and noise. She saw systems, standards, and the careful choreography of military precision. Think someone should tell her, this isn't a public tour. Recruit Patterson muttered to his fire team as they rotated through combat drills. His voice carried the casual authority of someone who'd been here 3 whole weeks longer than the newest arrivals. She's probably some contractor's wife looking for her husband. The woman's gaze swept across the training scenarios with methodical thoroughness. Combat simulations played out in designated zones, while drill instructors evaluated performance with clipboards and stopwatches. Every movement, every decision, every reaction was being measured against standards most civilians would never understand. Recruit Chin finished his timed run and jogged past her position, breathing hard but maintaining form. Ma'am, you'll need to check in at the main building if you're looking for someone, he offered between breaths, pointing toward the administrative complex. They don't usually let visitors in the training areas. She nodded acknowledgement without responding, her attention already shifting to the next exercise rotation. The respect in Chen's tone contrasted sharply with the casual dismissal from his peers, but the message remained consistent. She didn't belong here, and everyone could see it. 23 minutes and counting, Torres announced, checking his watch with theatrical precision. My money says she asked for directions to the parking lot next. The compound's rhythm continued around them. 200 young warriors convinced they were witnessing someone completely out of her element. None of them noticed how her eyes cataloged the training deficiencies, identified the safety violations, or assessed the leadership techniques being demonstrated. They saw civilian clothes and assumed civilian knowledge. The morning sun climbed higher, casting sharp shadows across the compound as the woman continued her quiet observation, surrounded by doubt but undisturbed by judgment. The mockery grew bolder as the woman lingered near the tactical course. Recruit Davidson finished his rope climb and dropped to the ground with practiced ease, sweat gleaming on his forehead as he noticed her continued presence. Still here, he announced to his squad with exaggerated surprise. Maybe she's writing a book about military life. His teammate, Recruit Sullivan, laughed while checking his equipment harness. Chapter 1, How I Got Lost on a Military Base, he suggested, earning chuckle from the surrounding candidates. The woman remained focused on the training exercise, watching as another recruit struggled with a wall traverse, his technique inefficient and energy-wasting. Sergeant Rodriguez approached the struggling candidate with sharp corrections. Feet placement, Morrison. You're burning energy like fuel in a leaky tank. Use your legs, not just your arms. The woman's eyes followed the instruction with apparent understanding, as if she were mentally cataloging the teaching method's effectiveness. Recruit Williams jogged past her position during his time circuit, calling over his shoulder without breaking stride. "Ma'am, if you're waiting for someone, there's a family waiting area near the main gate." Much more comfortable than standing out here in the heat. His tone carried helpful condescension, the voice of someone explaining obvious facts to the obviously confused. The tactical course claimed another victim as recruit Foster misjudged the rope swing and landed hard in the sandpit. His squad mates erupted in good-natured ribbing while he dusted himself off, pride wounded more than body. The woman observed the safety protocols being followed, the immediate response from nearby instructors, the seamless continuation of training despite the interruption. "I'm telling you, she's somebody's mom," Recruit Patterson insisted during his water break, voice carrying across the concrete. "Probably here for some family day thing and got the date wrong." His certainty was infectious, spreading through the group like accepted wisdom. The obstacle course rotation continued with mechanical precision as candidates cycled through each station. Wall climbs, rope traverses, crawl sections, balance beams, each challenge designed to test different aspects of physical and mental capability. The woman's attention moved systematically from station to station, her assessment thorough and professional. Recruit Hayes approached the pull-up bar with visible apprehension, his upper body strength clearly his weakest attribute. The woman watched his struggle with what appeared to be clinical interest, noting the instructor's encouragement techniques and the peer support being offered. Hayes managed 8 repetitions before dropping, frustrated but determined. "Look, lady," Recruit Barnes said during equipment transition, his tone mixing patience with mild irritation. "This really isn't a spectator area. Training operations are restricted for safety reasons. You should probably head back to the visitor center before someone official notices you're here." The training cadence never faltered around her presence. Drill instructors barked corrections, timers clicked steadily, equipment clanged and rattled through constant use. 200 young warriors pushed their bodies and minds through carefully designed challenges while dismissing the quiet observer in their midst. "She's been here over 30 minutes now," Torres updated his betting pool participants. "Either she's completely lost or she's waiting for someone who forgot she was coming. Either way, this is getting awkward for everyone." The woman's gaze swept across the compound's organized chaos with unwavering attention. Combat simulations continued in designated zones, while marksmanship training echoed from the rifle ranges. Physical training, tactical exercises, academic instruction, all happening simultaneously in the carefully choreographed dance of military education. Recruit Jackson finished his equipment inspection and gestured toward the administrative buildings. "Ma'am, seriously, you need to check in properly if you're supposed to be here. They have procedures for visitors, and this isn't how it works." His exasperation was barely concealed beneath military courtesy, patience wearing thin with what seemed like obvious civilian confusion. The morning heat intensified as the sun climbed higher, but the woman showed no signs of discomfort or intention to leave. Her observation continued with steady focus while around her, 200 recruits grew, increasingly certain they were dealing with someone completely out of place in their professional world. The combat simulation bay erupted in controlled chaos as Alpha Squad engaged their scenario. Smoke grenades hissed white clouds across the urban warfare mock-up, while Recruit Thompson called tactical positions to his fire team. "Contact left, 2 tangos behind the vehicle barrier," he shouted over the simulation gunfire, his voice steady despite the pressure. The woman moved closer to observe the exercise, her positioning strategic to maintain clear sight lines while staying clear of the safety perimeter. Recruit Morrison emerged from the smoke with equipment malfunction, his rifle jamming at the critical moment. Training Sergeant Kelly immediately called exercise halt while safety protocols engaged. "She's really getting into this, isn't she?" Recruit Valdez commented to his squad as they prepared for their rotation. "Like she's never seen military training before. Probably thinks this is all real combat instead of just exercises." His teammates nodded with knowing superiority, convinced they were witnessing civilian fascination with military theatrics. The malfunction drill proceeded with textbook precision as Morrison cleared his weapon under instructor supervision. Strip, inspect, reassemble, function check, all performed with the methodical care that meant survival in actual combat. The woman's attention focused intently on the procedure, her observation clinical and thorough. Bravo Squad initiated their scenario with improved coordination, their movements through the urban environment more fluid than the previous team's attempt. Recruit Stevens demonstrated exceptional tactical awareness, identifying threat positions before his teammates and communicating effectively under stress. The exercise concluded with successful objective completion in acceptable time. Still watching like she's taking notes, Recruit Hoffman observed during his equipment check. Maybe she's some kind of inspector or something, though she sure doesn't dress like military personnel. His speculation drew interest from nearby candidates who glanced toward the woman with renewed curiosity. The tactical course rotation demanded peak physical performance as candidates navigated increasingly complex challenges. Recruit Parker approached the wall climb with determination, his technique refined through weeks of practice. Hand placement, foot positioning, breathing control, all elements combining for efficient ascent and controlled descent. The woman's assessment continued with unwavering focus as each squad cycled through their designated scenarios. Close quarters combat, vehicle interdiction, hostage rescue simulation, each exercise designed to test different tactical skills under controlled stress conditions. Her understanding of the training objectives appeared comprehensive despite her civilian appearance. Charlie Squad's performance showed marked improvement over earlier attempts, their coordination reflecting intensive preparation and growing unit cohesion. Recruit Anderson's leadership during the urban warfare scenario demonstrated natural tactical instincts refined through rigorous instruction. The simulation concluded with textbook execution and minimal tactical errors. 45 minutes now, Torres announced to his betting circle. My money's still on security escort, but she's definitely more persistent than expected. Maybe she's one of those military groupies who hang around bases trying to meet soldiers. That would explain the fascination with training exercises. The marksmanship range provided constant backdrop percussion as candidates demonstrated shooting proficiency under various conditions. Standard positions, timed fire, stress shooting, each requirement building toward combat readiness standards. The woman's attention shifted between the close combat training and long-range precision exercises with equal professional interest. Delta Squad approached their scenario with visible confidence, their preparation evident in coordinated movement and clear communication protocols. Recruit Williams demonstrated exceptional performance under pressure, his decision-making rapid and tactically sound. The exercise progression showed steady improvement across all participating candidates. Equipment inspection revealed minor deficiencies requiring immediate correction before live-fire exercises could commence. Recruit Foster's gear showed improper maintenance, earning sharp rebuke from Sergeant Rodriguez about standards and personal responsibility. The woman observed the corrective instruction with apparent understanding of both the technical requirements and leadership principles involved. Look, this is getting weird now, Recruit Sullivan declared during his hydration break. Normal visitors don't hang around this long, watching training. Either she's completely lost, or she's got some kind of official business nobody's told us about. His unease was becoming shared sentiment among the candidates. The training tempo maintained its relentless pace as morning exercises built toward more complex afternoon scenarios. Physical conditioning, weapons proficiency, tactical knowledge, leadership development, all components integrating toward comprehensive military competence. The woman's observation continued with professional intensity, while 200 recruits remained convinced they were dealing with an obviously misplaced civilian whose presence was becoming increasingly awkward for everyone involved. Training Sergeant Kelly finished his equipment inspection and noticed the woman's continued presence near the tactical course. His weathered face showed mild curiosity as he approached her position, clipboard tucked under his arm and 20 years of military bearing evident in every step. "Ma'am, I need to ask if you've checked in properly with base security today." The woman turned toward him with calm attention, her posture respectful but not deferential. "I have proper authorization to be here, Sergeant," she replied quietly, her voice carrying subtle authority that momentarily gave Kelly pause. He studied her more carefully, noting something indefinable about her presence that didn't match his assumptions. "Authorization from who? Exactly," Kelly pressed, his tone remaining professional despite growing uncertainty. "We don't usually have unescorted civilians observing training operations. There are safety protocols and security requirements that have to be followed." His experience told him something wasn't quite standard about this situation. Recruit Barnes overheard the exchange and nudged his squad mate with obvious satisfaction. "Finally, someone's dealing with the lost lady situation," he whispered. "Told you she didn't belong here. Should have asked for directions to the visitor center an hour ago, like we suggested." The woman maintained eye contact with Sergeant Kelly while reaching into her blazer pocket. Her movement was controlled and deliberate, showing awareness of proper protocol when accessing items in a military environment. She produced credentials that Kelly examined with increasing attention, his expression shifting from routine inquiry towards something approaching concern. Kelly's scrutiny of the documentation stretched longer than expected, his experienced eye cataloging details that clearly carried significance beyond simple visitor authorization. The training continued around them, but his focus remained entirely on whatever information the credentials contained. His body language began showing signs of professional unease. Echo Squad initiated their combat scenario, while Kelly continued his document review, the sound of tactical training providing backdrop to what was becoming an increasingly tense administrative situation. Recruit Morrison watched the exchange with growing interest, sensing undercurrents he couldn't quite identify in the sergeant's demeanor. "Is there a problem with her paperwork, Sergeant?" Recruit Valdez called out during his water break, his question carrying the confidence of someone certain the obvious answer was yes. "Seems like she's been trying to convince people she belongs here all morning. Maybe she just got confused about base visiting procedures." Kelly's attention remained fixed on the credentials with intensity that suggested their contents were far more significant than routine visitor documentation. His jaw tightened slightly as he processed information that clearly contradicted his initial assumptions about the woman's presence and authority level. The silence stretched uncomfortably long. The woman waited patiently while Kelly completed his review, her demeanor suggesting familiarity with security protocols and credential verification procedures. Her calm confidence contrasted sharply with the sergeant's growing tension as he encountered information that was obviously reshaping his understanding of the situation. Training Sergeant Williams approached from the rifle range, drawn by his colleague's extended interaction with the civilian observer. "Kelly, what's the situation here?" he asked quietly, his tone carrying the caution of someone sensing potential complications. The woman's presence had clearly evolved beyond simple visitor management. Kelly handed the credentials to Williams without comment, his expression carefully neutral, but his body language suggesting significant concern. Williams began his own examination of the documentation, while Kelly maintained position, both men now fully engaged in what had become an official inquiry rather than routine visitor assistance. Recruit Thompson finished his equipment maintenance and observed the developing situation with puzzled interest. Two training sergeants reviewing one woman's paperwork seemed excessive for simple base access issues. "Something's definitely not right about this whole thing," he muttered to his nearby squad mates. Williams' examination of the credentials produced visible reaction as he encountered the same information that had affected Kelly so dramatically. His posture straightened involuntarily, while his expression shifted from casual inquiry towards something approaching alarm. The documents clearly contained details that were forcing both sergeants to reconsider everything about the situation. The tactical training continued with mechanical precision while the administrative situation grew increasingly complex. Two experienced training sergeants now stood reviewing credentials that obviously carried implications far beyond their initial expectations. The woman remained patient and composed throughout their extended verification process. Kelly and Williams exchanged meaningful glances over the documentation, their silent communication suggesting shared understanding of information that was clearly significant beyond anything they'd anticipated. The routine visitor situation had evolved into something requiring careful handling and proper protocol adherence. The recruits' confidence soared as they watched both training sergeants examine the woman's credentials with obvious concern. Finally getting to the bottom of this, Recruit Patterson announced to his fire team, "Bet those papers are fake or expired. Nobody just shows up at military training without proper clearance and stand around for an hour." Recruit Davidson approached his squad mates with theatrical whispers. $20 says she's some kind of reporter trying to get unauthorized footage of training operations. That would explain why she's been watching everything so carefully. Probably has a hidden camera in that fancy blazer. Training Sergeant Kelly stepped away from the credential review to radio-based security, his voice low but urgent as he requested additional verification procedures. The woman remained composed throughout the escalating scrutiny, her patience suggesting familiarity with security protocols rather than civilian anxiety about official attention. "See how nervous the sergeants look?" Recruit Martinez observed with satisfaction. "They know something's wrong, but they're trying to handle it professionally." She probably thought she could bluff her way through with fake documentation. Amateur hour for sure. The tactical course rotation continued as Fox Squad prepared for their urban warfare scenario, but attention was increasingly divided between training requirements and the developing administrative crisis. Recruit Stevens positioned his fire team while casting glances toward the credential verification process that was clearly becoming more complex than anticipated. Training Sergeant Williams returned the documents to the woman with carefully controlled movements, his expression unreadable but his tension obvious to anyone watching closely. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to accompany us to the administrative building for additional verification procedures," he stated formally. The recruits erupted in quiet celebration at this development. "Told you so," Recruit Sullivan declared triumphantly. "Security escort, just like we predicted from the beginning. She's about to get a very professional but very firm removal from base property. Should have listened when we told her this wasn't a public area." Recruit Torres collected his betting winnings with obvious satisfaction. "Called it from minute one," he announced. "Lost civilian trying to bluff her way through military security. Classic case of someone who watched too many movies and thought she could just walk onto a base and observe classified training operations." The woman's response to the official request was notably calm, showing none of the anxiety or protest expected from someone caught in unauthorized activity. Her acceptance of the escort requirement carried professional understanding rather than civilian confusion about military procedures, a distinction lost on the celebrating recruits. Golf Squad initiated their combat scenario as the administrative situation reached its climax. Recruit Anderson led his team through the urban warfare course while most attention focused on what appeared to be the inevitable resolution of the morning's mystery visitor situation. Base security vehicles approached the training area with lights, but no sirens, their arrival confirming the seriousness of the credential verification process. Recruit Hoffman watched their approach with vindication. "Full security response," he observed with satisfaction. "She really stepped in at this time. Fake credentials on a military installation is serious federal crime territory." The woman accompanied Training Sergeant Williams toward the approaching security personnel with dignified composure, her bearing professional despite the obvious implications of the escort requirement. Her lack of protest or explanation frustrated some recruits who expected more dramatic civilian confusion. "Look at how calm she is," Recruit Barnes noted with puzzlement. "Either she's completely delusional about how much trouble she's in, or she's some kind of professional con artist who's done this before. Normal people would be panicking right about now." Security Chief Master Sergeant Rodriguez emerged from the lead vehicle with formal bearing and 25 years of military police experience evident in his approach. His attention focused immediately on the woman rather than the training sergeants, suggesting the credential verification had produced information requiring senior security attention. The training operations continued around the developing situation as 200 recruits divided their attention between tactical exercises and what appeared to be the satisfying conclusion of their morning's entertainment. The lost civilian was finally receiving appropriate official attention for her unauthorized presence in restricted training areas. Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached the group with measured steps, his expression serious but not hostile as he prepared to address what the recruits assumed would be a straightforward case of civilian trespass and fraudulent documentation. His professional demeanor suggested routine handling of security violations rather than the dramatic confrontation many expected. The distinctive sound of military boots on concrete announced another arrival as Commander Jake Ramirez approached the gathering near the tactical course. His seal trident gleamed against dress uniform blues, 22 years of elite operations experience evident in every controlled movement. The recruits straightened reflexively at his commanding presence. "This should be interesting," Recruit Thompson whispered to his squad mate. A SEAL commander doesn't usually get involved in basic security violations. She must have really screwed up to warrant this level of attention. His excitement was shared by nearby candidates who sensed they were about to witness serious consequences. Commander Ramirez surveyed the situation with practiced efficiency, his attention moving from the security personnel to the training sergeants before settling on the woman at the center of the controversy. His approach carried the authority of someone accustomed to making critical decisions under pressure in the most demanding operational environments. Finally, someone with real rank to sort this mess out, Recruit Valdez declared confidently, "SEAL commanders don't waste time on bureaucratic nonsense. She's about to get a very direct lesson about military protocol and base security. This is going to be educational for everyone watching." The woman maintained her composed bearing as Commander Ramirez approached, showing neither anxiety nor deference despite the obvious significance of his presence. Her professional demeanor remained consistent even as the situation escalated to include senior command attention, suggesting familiarity with high-level military interactions. Hotel Squad completed their tactical exercise as attention throughout the training area focused on the developing confrontation. Recruit Morrison positioned his equipment while keeping one eye on what promised to be the definitive resolution of the morning's unauthorized visitor situation. The tension was becoming palpable across the entire compound. Commander Ramirez stopped approximately 10 feet from the woman, his posture formal but not hostile as he prepared to address what the recruits assumed was a clear-cut case of civilian security violation. His experience with complex operational situations was evident in his measured approach to the administrative crisis. But he takes one look at her fake credentials and calls for immediate arrest, Recruit Sullivan predicted with certainty. SEAL commanders have zero tolerance for security breaches. She picked the wrong base to try her civilian tourist routine on. Military justice is about to be swift and decisive. The training operations continued around them with mechanical precision, but nearly every recruit within sight range was dividing attention between their assigned tasks and the unfolding drama near the tactical course. The presence of a SEAL commander transformed what had been morning entertainment into something approaching spectacle. Master Sergeant Rodriguez positioned himself at respectful distance, while Commander Ramirez took control of the situation, his command presence immediately establishing clear authority hierarchy. The security chief's deference to the SEAL commander's rank was obvious and appropriate, but his tension remained evident. Commander Ramirez began his approach toward the woman with deliberate steps, his attention focused entirely on assessing the situation that had apparently required his personal intervention. His expression remained professionally neutral as he prepared to address what everyone assumed would be a straightforward security matter. "This is definitely going in the base newsletter," Recruit Martinez observed with anticipation. SEAL Commander personally handles security breach during routine training operations. She's going to be a cautionary tale for years about respecting military installations and proper authorization procedures. The woman's posture remained unchanged as Commander Ramirez closed the distance between them, her composure suggesting professional experience with senior military personnel rather than civilian intimidation by command authority. Her calm confidence continued to puzzle recruits who expected more obvious anxiety about facing SEAL leadership. Training Sergeant Kelly maintained his position near the security personnel, while Commander Ramirez assumed direct control of the credential verification process. The complexity of a morning situation was clearly beyond routine training sergeant authority, requiring senior command attention and decision-making capability. Commander Ramirez reached the optimal distance for formal military interaction, his bearing professional and controlled as he prepared to examine the credentials that had created such significant concern among base security personnel. His attention focused entirely on the woman as 200 recruits watched expectantly. The tactical training background noise continued with automatic weapons fire and explosive simulation, while the most significant drama played out in the administrative confrontation that was about to reach its climax. Commander Ramirez positioned himself to begin what everyone assumed would be the authoritative resolution of the unauthorized visitor crisis. Commander Ramirez stepped within arm's reach of the woman. His practiced eye prepared to assess both her credentials and her response to command authority. "Ma'am, I understand there's been some confusion about your authorization to observe training operations." He began formally, his voice carrying the controlled authority of 22 years in elite military service. The woman turned to face him directly, and as she did, the morning sunlight caught something at her collar that made Commander Ramirez's next words die in his throat. His eyes locked onto a small insignia partially visible beneath her blazer lapel, the distinctive design immediately recognizable to anyone with his level of security clearance and operational experience. "Watch this," Recruit Patterson whispered excitedly to his fire team. "Commander's about to lay down the law about base security and civilian access protocols. She's going to get the full military justice lecture about respecting restricted areas and proper authorization procedures." Commander Ramirez's forward momentum stopped abruptly as his brain processed what his eyes were seeing. The insignia was unmistakable once properly illuminated, its design and placement indicating authorization levels that existed far above normal military hierarchy. His professional composure wavered as recognition replaced assumption. The woman waited patiently as Commander Ramirez processed the significance of what he was observing, her calm demeanor suggesting complete familiarity with this type of credential recognition scenario. Her bearing remained professional and respectful despite the obvious shock registering on his experienced features. India Squad initiated their tactical exercise while most attention remained focused on what the recruits expected to be the climactic confrontation between command authority and civilian trespass. Recruit Anderson led his team through urban warfare scenarios while keeping one eye on the developing administrative situation. Commander Ramirez's jaw tightened imperceptibly as he continued staring at the insignia, his extensive operational experience providing context that transformed his understanding of the entire morning's events. The casual security inquiry had evolved into something requiring entirely different protocols and professional handling. "Something's wrong with the commander," Recruit Barnes observed with growing confusion. "You should be asking for her identification and explaining why she needs to leave immediately. Instead, he's just standing there looking at her jacket. Maybe her fake credentials are more sophisticated than we thought." The insignia gleamed with understated authority in the morning light, its design incorporating elements that existed exclusively within the most classified levels of military intelligence and special operations command structure. Commander Ramirez's recognition was immediate and undeniable, reshaping every assumption about the morning's visitor situation. Training Sergeant Kelly watched Commander Ramirez's reaction with growing uncertainty, sensing undercurrents in the situation that clearly exceeded his security clearance and operational experience. The SEAL commander's response was obviously not following expected protocols for handling unauthorized civilian presence on base. Commander Ramirez remained frozen in position as his mind cataloged the implications of the insignia's presence and authenticity. His operational experience included exposure to the highest levels of military command structure, providing context that made the morning's events suddenly and dramatically comprehensible. "Why isn't he saying anything?" Recruit Hoffman asked with visible frustration. "Just standing there staring at her, like he's seen a ghost. She's probably some kind of foreign agent with sophisticated cover identity. That would explain the professional-looking fake credentials and calm behavior." The woman's expression remained neutral as Commander Ramirez processed the significance of her actual identity and authorization level. Her patience suggested complete familiarity with the recognition process and the typical reactions of senior military personnel when encountering her legitimate credentials. Master Sergeant Rodriguez maintained respectful distance while observing Commander Ramirez's unexpected response to the credential verification process. The security chief's experience told him something significant was occurring that exceeded his understanding of the situation's actual complexity and implications. Commander Ramirez's eyes moved from the insignia to the woman's face, seeking confirmation of what his training and experience were telling him about her true identity and operational authority. His professional composure was clearly struggling to maintain equilibrium in the face of completely unexpected recognition. The tactical training continued around them, with automatic weapons fire and simulation explosions providing backdrop to what had become a silent confrontation charged with implications invisible to the watching recruits. Commander Ramirez stood motionless, his world reshaping itself around the reality of who was actually standing before him. Juliet's squad prepared for their combat scenario as the administrative situation reached what appeared to be an impasse, with Commander Ramirez frozen in recognition, while 200 recruits waited expectantly for the decisive action that would resolve the morning's unauthorized visitor crisis in appropriately dramatic military fashion. Commander Ramirez's face drained of color as the full implications of the insignia settled into his consciousness. The distinctive design belonged to an operational classification that existed in the shadows of military hierarchy, known only to personnel with the highest security clearances and most critical operational assignments. His hands trembled almost imperceptibly. "This is getting weird," Recruit Torres muttered to his betting circle. "Commander looks like he's having some kind of medical episode. Maybe the heat's getting to him in that dress uniform. Someone should probably check if he needs water or medical attention." The woman maintained her patient stance while Commander Ramirez processed what his recognition meant for everything that had transpired over the past hour. His operational experience provided terrifying context about the significance of her presence and the catastrophic misjudgment that had been occurring throughout the morning. Commander Ramirez's breathing became carefully controlled as he fought to maintain professional composure while his mind raced through the implications of who was actually standing before him. The casual security inquiry had evolved into a situation requiring damage control at levels he could barely comprehend. "Why is he just standing there?" Recruit Sullivan demanded with growing frustration. "She's obviously some kind of security threat if she's got the commander this rattled. He should be calling for backup and having her restrained immediately. This whole situation has gone completely sideways." The insignia represented authority that transcended normal military command structure, existing within operational frameworks that most personnel would never encounter throughout entire careers. Commander Ramirez's recognition triggered understanding of protocols and procedures that operated far above his operational experience. Kilo's squad completed their tactical exercise while Commander Ramirez remained locked in silent recognition, his professional world realigning itself around the reality of what the morning's events actually represented. The routine training day had become something requiring careful navigation through classified operational territory. Maybe she's some kind of undercover investigator, Recruit Valdez speculated nervously. That would explain why the commander looks so shocked. She's probably been sent to evaluate base security and training operations. We might all be in serious trouble for the way we've been treating her. Commander Ramirez's jaw worked silently as he calculated the appropriate response to finding himself face-to-face with someone whose operational authority existed so far above his security clearance that her presence here represented either classified mission requirements or catastrophic security implications he couldn't begin to assess. The woman's calm patience during his recognition process suggested complete familiarity with the typical reactions of senior military personnel when encountering her legitimate credentials and operational status. Her professional bearing remained unchanged despite the obvious shock she was witnessing. Training Sergeant Kelly sensed the dramatic shift in Commander Ramirez's demeanor and began approaching carefully, his experience telling him something significant had occurred that exceeded his understanding. The morning's routine security inquiry had clearly evolved into something requiring senior command attention. Commander Ramirez's eyes remained fixed on the insignia as his operational knowledge provided increasingly alarming context about what her presence might represent. His experience with classified operations offered multiple scenarios, none of which suggested routine training observation or casual base visitation. "Look at his hands," Recruit Martinez observed with growing concern. "Commander's actually shaking. Either she's the most dangerous person he's ever encountered, or she's someone so important that recognizing her has scared him speechless. Neither option makes sense for some law civilian." The tactical training continued around them with mechanical precision, while Commander Ramirez struggled to process the magnitude of his recognition. 200 recruits watched expectantly for decisive command action, while he fought to understand the appropriate protocol for his current situation. Master Sergeant Rodriguez maintained his position, but began showing signs of concern about Commander Ramirez's unexpected response to the credential verification. The security chief's experience suggested something significant was occurring that required immediate attention and proper handling. Commander Ramirez's professional training warred with a shock of recognition as he attempted to formulate an appropriate response to encountering someone whose operational classification existed within the most sensitive levels of military intelligence and Special Operations Command Authority. The morning sunlight continued illuminating the insignia that had transformed a routine security matter into something approaching a classified incident requiring careful navigation through protocols most personnel would never encounter throughout their entire military careers. Commander Ramirez slowly straightened his posture as his training overcame the shock of recognition, his professional instincts engaging to handle what had become a situation requiring the most careful protocol adherence. His movements became deliberately controlled as he prepared to address someone whose operational authority existed far beyond his initial comprehension. "Something's definitely wrong here," Recruit Thompson declared to his squad mates. "Commanders don't freeze up like that unless they're dealing with something way above their pay grade. Maybe she really is some kind of federal investigator or intelligence operative. That would explain everything." The woman waited with professional patience while Commander Ramirez fought to regain his composure and determine the appropriate response to her presence. Her calm demeanor suggested complete understanding of the recognition process and the typical reactions of military personnel when encountering her legitimate operational status. Commander Ramirez's hands moved to adjust his uniform with nervous precision, his actions betraying the internal struggle between shock and professional requirements. His operational experience provided context for understanding exactly who was standing before him, but not necessarily the protocols for handling the encounter. Training Sergeant Kelly approached within speaking distance, his concern evident as he observed Commander Ramirez's unexpected response to what should have been a routine security matter. Sergeant Williams joined him, both men sensing undercurrents in the situation that clearly exceeded their security clearance and operational experience. "Commander, is everything all right?" Training Sergeant Kelly asked quietly, his voice carrying the respectful concern of a subordinate recognizing his superior's obvious distress. The morning's routine visitor situation had clearly evolved into something requiring immediate attention and proper handling through appropriate channels. Lima Squad initiated their combat scenario, while attention throughout the training area remained focused on the developing confrontation that had somehow transformed from routine security inquiry into what appeared to be a high-level administrative crisis requiring senior command intervention and careful protocol navigation. Commander Ramirez nodded tersely at Training Sergeant Kelly's inquiry, his voice carefully controlled as he responded. "Everything is under control, Sergeant. However, this situation requires immediate elevation to proper command authority. Please ensure all training operations continue without interruption or speculation." The recruits exchanged increasingly worried glances as they observed the obvious tension between Commander Ramirez's words and his visible demeanor. His attempt at professional reassurance carried undertones that suggested something significant was occurring beyond their understanding or security clearance level. "She must be someone really important," Recruit Barnes whispered urgently to his fire team. "Maybe Pentagon brass, doing surprise inspections, or some kind of classified oversight operation. That would explain why the commander looks like he's about to have a heart attack." Commander Ramirez turned his attention back to the woman, his approach now carrying the careful respect of someone who understood exactly what her presence represented. His recognition had clearly transformed his entire understanding of the morning's events and the appropriate protocols for handling the situation. "Ma'am," Commander Ramirez began formally, his voice betraying slight tremor despite his attempts at professional control. "I believe there may have been some misunderstanding about your presence here this morning. If you could accompany me to the command building, we can ensure proper protocols are followed." The woman's slight nod suggested acceptance of his revised approach, her professional bearing indicating familiarity with the recognition process and the typical administrative adjustments required when her operational status became apparent to senior military personnel. Master Sergeant Rodriguez observed the exchange with growing concern, his security experience telling him something significant had shifted in the morning's routine inquiry. The obvious change in Commander Ramirez's demeanor and approach suggested implications far beyond his operational understanding. "This is way above our level," Recruit Hoffman declared nervously. "Whatever's happening here involves people and protocols we're not supposed to know about. We should probably focus on training and pretend we never saw any of this conversation." Commander Ramirez gestured respectfully toward the administrative complex, his movements careful and deferential as he prepared to escort someone whose operational authority clearly exceeded anything he'd encountered throughout his distinguished career. His professional confidence had been replaced by obvious uncertainty about proper procedures. The tactical training continued around them with automatic weapons fire and simulation explosions, providing backdrop to what had become a silent drama charged with implications invisible to most observers, but terrifyingly clear to Commander Ramirez as he struggled to navigate protocols existing far above his operational experience. Commander Ramirez drew himself to full attention and executed a perfect military salute, his bearing transformed from uncertain inquiry to formal recognition of superior authority. The crisp snap of his movement echoed across the training compound as 200 recruits watched in stunned silence, their morning's entertainment suddenly becoming incomprehensible. "What the hell just happened?" Recruit Patterson whispered, his voice barely audible as he stared at the impossible scene unfolding before them. "SEAL commanders don't salute random civilians. Ever." His certainty about the morning's events crumbled as reality shifted around him. The woman returned Commander Ramirez's salute with practiced precision, her movement revealing military bearing that had been carefully concealed beneath civilian appearance. Her response carried the automatic authority of someone accustomed to receiving formal recognition from senior military personnel across all service branches. "Director," Commander Ramirez said formally, his voice carrying across the training area with crystal clarity. "I apologize for any inconvenience caused by this morning's security inquiry. Your presence here was not anticipated through normal command channels, and proper protocols were not initially followed. Director. The word hit the watching recruits like physical impact, their assumptions dissolving as they processed the title's implications. Recruit Torres felt his betting winnings turn to ash in his pocket as he realized the magnitude of their collective misjudgment throughout the morning's entertainment. The woman's response was calm and professional, her voice carrying quiet authority that had been masked by patient observation. No apology necessary, Commander. I was conducting an unannounced assessment of training operations and security protocols. Your personnel's responses have been noted and will be included in my evaluation report. Training Sergeant Kelly's clipboard clattered to the concrete as understanding struck him like lightning. His 20 years of military experience provided context that made the morning's events suddenly and terrifyingly clear. They had been questioning and dismissing someone whose authority exceeded their wildest comprehension. Assessment. Evaluation report. The phrases ricocheted through the watching recruits' consciousness as they began calculating the implications of their behavior towards someone who had apparently been evaluating their professionalism and military bearing throughout the entire morning. Mike's squad abandoned their tactical exercise entirely as the truth spread across the training compound like wildfire. Recruit Anderson stood frozen in disbelief, his rifle forgotten as he processed the reality that they had been mocking someone whose operational authority transcended normal military hierarchy. She's been watching us the whole time, Recruit Sullivan said numbly, his face pale as he recalled every dismissive comment and casual insult directed toward the woman throughout the morning. Every joke, every suggestion she was lost, every prediction about security escort had been heard and noted. Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached at double time, his security chief experience providing immediate understanding of the catastrophic nature of the morning's events. His formal bearing reflected recognition of someone whose presence represented evaluation of his security protocols and personnel performance. The woman's insignia gleamed with undeniable authority in the morning sunlight as she addressed the assembled personnel. This facility's training operations demonstrate excellent technical proficiency, she stated clearly. However, certain aspects of personnel conduct and situational awareness will require immediate attention and corrective action. Recruit Barnes felt physical nausea as he remembered his confident predictions about fake credentials and security escort. The woman had been conducting official evaluation while they provided a comprehensive demonstration of unprofessional behavior and failure to recognize legitimate authority. Commander Ramirez maintained his formal posture while internally calculating the administrative nightmare that would follow the morning's events. An unannounced director-level evaluation had occurred while his personnel demonstrated complete failure to identify and respect appropriate authority levels. Training operations across the compound ground to halt as the truth spread through whispered communications and horrified realization. 200 recruits stood in various stages of shock and dawning comprehension about the true nature of their morning's entertainment. The woman continued her formal address with calm professionalism. A comprehensive after-action report will be submitted through appropriate channels. Recommendations for improved recognition protocols and personnel conduct training will be included in my assessment findings. Recruit Martinez stared at the insignia that had been visible throughout the morning, its significance completely lost on personnel who had been too confident in their assumptions to notice the obvious indicators of her operational authority and legitimate presence. The tactical training equipment stood abandoned as reality restructured itself around the undeniable truth that they had spent the morning demonstrating everything wrong with military bearing, situational awareness, and respect for authority to someone whose job was evaluating exactly those qualities. The training compound fell into absolute silence as 200 recruits processed the magnitude of their collective failure. Director Elena Vasquez stood among them with quiet authority, her morning's observation having provided comprehensive documentation of personnel conduct that would reshape training protocols across multiple installations. Recruit Torres doubled over as if physically struck, his confident betting pool now representing evidence of systematic disrespect towards someone whose evaluation would determine careers and futures. $20, she gets escorted out, echoed in his mind like a death sentence for his military aspirations. Training Sergeant Kelly approached Director Vasquez with careful steps, his weathered face showing the strain of 20 years' experience suddenly rendered meaningless by his failure to recognize legitimate authority. "Ma'am," he began formally, his voice tight with professional mortification, "I take full responsibility for this morning's security protocol's failure." Director Vasquez nodded acknowledgement while maintaining her professional demeanor. "Sergeant, your personnel's responses will be documented in context with existing recognition training requirements. This assessment identifies systemic issues requiring institutional rather than individual corrective action." The recruits exchanged horrified glances as they began calculating the implications of being individually documented in a director-level evaluation report. Recruit Patterson felt his legs weaken as he remembered suggesting she write a book called How I Got Lost on a Military Base. Commander Ramirez maintained his formal posture while internally preparing for the administrative earthquake that would follow this evaluation. His distinguished career now included presiding over what might become a textbook example of recognition protocol failure at the highest levels. Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached with formal bearing, his security chief experience providing full understanding of the catastrophic nature of the morning's events. "Director," he stated clearly, "immediate review of all recognition training protocols will commence today. This incident represents unacceptable failure in basic security awareness." Director Vasquez's response carried calm authority as she addressed the assembled personnel. "This evaluation demonstrates the critical importance of situational awareness and respect for all individuals present in military facilities. Assumptions based on appearance can compromise both security and professional standards." Recruit Sullivan stared at the ground, unable to meet anyone's eyes as he recalled his confident declaration about Chapter 1, How I Got Lost on a Military Base. His military career was effectively over before it had truly begun, destroyed by his own arrogance and failure to recognize authority. The tactical equipment stood abandoned across the compound as reality settled over the recruits like a suffocating blanket. Their morning's entertainment had been a comprehensive demonstration of everything wrong with military bearing and professional conduct, witnessed and documented by someone whose job was evaluating exactly those qualities. November Squad remained frozen in their combat positions, afraid to move or speak as they processed the implications of their observed behavior. Recruit Williams felt physical illness as he remembered his helpful directions to the family waiting area, delivered with condescending patience to someone evaluating his professionalism. Director Vasquez continued her formal address with measured professionalism. "Effective immediately, enhanced recognition training will be implemented across all installations. Personnel will receive comprehensive instruction in identifying legitimate authority regardless of appearance or civilian attire." Training Sergeant Williams joined his colleague in formal acknowledgement of the evaluation findings, his own career now requiring careful navigation through the administrative consequences of the morning's systematic failure. The routine training day had become a watershed moment in military education protocols. Recruit Barnes felt perspiration despite the morning temperature as he remembered his confident analysis of fake credentials and inevitable security escort. His certainty had been absolute, his judgment completely wrong, his future now dependent on institutional mercy rather than personal merit. Commander Ramirez prepared to escort Director Vasquez to the command building while calculating the extensive after-action requirements that would follow this unannounced evaluation. His personnel had provided a comprehensive demonstration of recognition protocol failure to someone whose authority transcended his operational experience. The morning sunlight continued illuminating the insignia that had been visible throughout the entire observation period, its significance completely lost on personnel who had been too confident in their assumptions to notice the obvious indicators of legitimate authority and operational classification. Director Vasquez began moving toward the administrative complex with Commander Ramirez in respectful escort, her evaluation complete and her documentation comprehensive. 200 recruits watched in mortified silence as their morning's entertainment concluded with the stark reality of professional consequences and institutional change. 6 months later, the same training compound operated under transformed protocols as new recruits received comprehensive recognition training before beginning tactical exercises. Director Vasquez's evaluation had resulted in institutional changes across all military installations, her morning's observation becoming legendary within professional development circles. Recruit Chun approached the obstacle course with careful attention to his surroundings, his training now including systematic assessment of all personnel present regardless of appearance or attire. The hard-learned lessons from the infamous evaluation incident had become foundational elements of military education. Training Sergeant Kelly supervised the enhanced protocols with professional dedication, his career having survived the administrative review through demonstrated commitment to implementing corrective measures. The morning's failure had become his personal mission to ensure no future personnel would repeat such catastrophic judgment errors. Commander Ramirez addressed the new recruits during their orientation briefing, his presentation including specific case study analysis of assumption-based failures and their consequences. His distinguished career now included expertise in recognition protocol development and institutional learning from operational mistakes. The story of Director Vasquez's unannounced evaluation had become required reading in military academies, her patient observation and professional documentation providing textbook examples of leadership assessment techniques and the importance of situational awareness in all operational environments. New recognition training included detailed instruction about authority indicators, civilian attire protocols, and the critical importance of respectful interaction with all personnel present in military facilities. Director Vasquez's invisible insignia had become a teaching tool for identifying legitimate authority markers. Recruit Martinez completed his tactical exercise while maintaining awareness of all observers present, his training having instilled permanent vigilance about potential evaluation scenarios. The institutional memory of 200 recruits' collective failure served as powerful motivation for professional excellence. Master Sergeant Rodriguez implemented security protocols that included comprehensive personnel briefings about potential unannounced evaluations and the importance of maintaining professional standards regardless of perceived observer status. His security procedures now reflected institutional learning from the evaluation incident. The tactical equipment gleamed with careful maintenance as new recruits demonstrated not only physical proficiency, but also professional awareness and respectful conduct toward all facility personnel. Director Vasquez's evaluation had transformed both technical training and character development requirements. Training operations continued with enhanced professionalism as personnel understood their constant potential for evaluation and assessment. The casual dismissal and mockery that had characterized the infamous morning had been replaced by systematic respect and situational awareness. Director Vasquez's final report had praised the facility's technical training excellence while recommending comprehensive changes to personnel conduct education. Her professional assessment had balanced criticism with recognition of institutional potential for improvement and growth. If you enjoyed this story about hidden authority and the importance of respect, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite moment, or share if you've witnessed similar situations where someone's appearance didn't match their true significance. The enhanced training protocols produced graduates with superior recognition skills and professional bearing. Their education, including comprehensive understanding of authority structures and the critical importance of respectful interaction with all personnel regardless of appearance or civilian attire. Commander Ramirez's career had evolved to include specialization in recognition training development, his experience with Director Vasquez's evaluation providing unique insights into institutional learning and professional development requirements. His leadership now emphasized situational awareness as fundamental military competency. New recruits learned the Director Vasquez principle as foundational military wisdom. Legitimate authority can appear in any form, and professional respect must be extended to all personnel until proven otherwise. Her morning's observation had become institutional doctrine across all service branches. The training compound's transformation represented systematic change in military education, moving beyond technical proficiency to include comprehensive professional development and character formation. Director Vasquez's patient documentation had catalyzed evolution in military training philosophy. Years later, military personnel worldwide knew the story of the woman in civilian clothes who spent a morning being mocked by recruits while conducting official evaluation of their professionalism. Her quiet authority and patient observation had become legendary examples of leadership assessment and institutional improvement through documented experience.